If you like your standards high and your growth even faster, pull up a chair because this is the DASHcast Podcast. And on today's episode, we have Charles Michael Willis joining us.
Pleasure to be here, Zach.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I started in real estate in about 2019, got full bore about 2022, worked with another firm, and then found my home at Dash and have been in love with it ever since.
Nice, man. Yeah, we don't call you Charles Michael at the office. We call you Chuck Mike, right?
You call me Chuck Mike. Yeah.
Chuck Mike, because that's, really fun. We always try and give people nicknames. But,
absolutely.
Yeah, so tell me, so you were in real estate for the last few years,
yeah,
right?
Correct. Yeah.
And then what'd you do before that?
So before that, I was a regional operations manager for a local, not local. It was one of the largest on the Eastern Seaboard, parking company, valet company, that sort of stuff.
Oh,
as you know.
Yeah. In a past life, him and I used to work together, but we didn't know about it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, So I did that for a long time. Got a lot of experience in hospitality. Also, was an executive assistant for a commercial real estate firm here. Mm-hmm. So got to really learn the in and outs of some of the development side of things and the construction side of things.
Yeah, I was about to say you had somewhat of a construction background too.
Absolutely. So dabbled in high school with construction classes, spent summers on, the roofs, roofing, doing concrete laying from the foundations, all that fun stuff. So really a truly developed understanding from the ground up of how a house is developed or made. Yeah.
Sweet, man. So, obviously, because you have that background, you have a lot of knowledge about just the house in general, and specifically at Dash, we really try and talk people out of houses. And by that, we try and point out things that might cost them money in the future. And absolutely. I feel like you've really dialed really into that because you have such a good track record of success with knowing so much about houses.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is my motto. It's in my bio. If you look, I absolutely will try to talk you out of the house. I feel like it is not my job to let you know, hey, I love these beautiful walls. I love this beautiful floor. I'll tell you what the material is, but it's not really up to me to decide what I like and what I don't like. You'll tell me when we're looking. What I really want to do is to let you know, hey, this is structurally what I see going on right now. I'm not an expert. I'm not an inspector. But I do have a background enough to see that this crack may cause an issue and we need to get it looked at. Or, hey, there's higher humidity in the crawl space. Just something that you're probably not going to be well aware of the first time that you're buying a house. Or even if you are seasoned, you might not know, hey, 36% in the crawl space is going to have some issues in the future. So really making sure that buyers are aware of that. And when I finally can't tell them, hey, this is all the stuff that's wrong with your house, you have to be comfortable with it moving forward, and are you comfortable? And they tell me, yes, we're willing to accept all this, that's when I'll write the offer for them. But not until they've told me, hey, I'm in love with this house and I'm okay with everything that comes with it.
Right, because homes are sold as is, how is, where is in our state, right? So
caveat emptor.
Yeah, exactly. Buyer beware. So in the event that you buy a house and it turns out it's put together with duct tape, that becomes your problem, right?
Too late at that point. Yeah, absolutely.
Too late. So you went through a couple things there, like structural stuff, humidity in the crawl space. Tell us some things that you typically look out for when you're showing a house. Yeah,
absolutely. So I like to start on the outside to begin with. A lot of times we're greeting clients at the front door, and what better way to start the interaction with saying, hey, look at this siding that we have. In North Carolina, especially Cary, Raleigh, that 70s, 80s track, you'll run into the one word that we dislike the most, and that's masonite. Most buyers aren't familiar with what masonite is, and it's not a problem until it is. And how does it become a problem? Well, maintenance. And that's most of the things that I try to educate buyers on, is saying, if you go and paint this and you take care of this product, it may last longer than what's the shelf recommended for it, or that you see your neighbors have already replaced it, whatever it may be. But keep in mind that this is going to be an issue. Masonite specifically, you're familiar with it just as I am. I like to call it glorified cardboard. Once you start proactively missing some of those maintenance windows of having it painted, having it sealed, having it caulked, you're allowing moisture intrusion to go into that masonite, and it starts crumbling away. That begins to be a very expensive problem for buyers very quickly. And I want to also reiterate that we don't know what's behind that wall. And no matter how much discovery we do of walking up and saying, hey, this is soft, we still don't have x-ray vision to be able to see behind it. So even then, there may still be issues, and the buyer needs to be aware of that before moving forward.
So it's all about educating at the end of the day, right?
It
So like,
is.
what are some tips that you could give other agents or even clients when you come up to a house that has masonite, for instance? Because masonite is the brand name of the press board that they use, right?
Exactly.
And so like, what are some tips that you generally will show a client or an agent that might be watching? You come up to a house, has press board on it. What are some things that you can tell if it's good or not?
Yeah, so when you're looking at masonite, it will have this funny little interaction when it does start getting a lot of moisture in it to where the board will start to wave. If you're looking down it, that'll be a very clear indicator of, hey, we are starting to have some moisture intrusion. And also if it's soft, if you go up to it and you press onto it, a lot of homeowners, what they'll do is they'll paint over it. It'll still be soft. You'll still see that indentation in there. So just being aware that, hey, you know, most of the properties sub early 90s in Cary, in Raleigh, they're going to have that masonite typically. And then just being aware that it really is a maintenance key to it. And if you keep painting it, keep it well maintained, then there's still plenty of masonite out there that's fine today. But really walking up to it, you know, the press test is probably the easiest. If it gives way, you know that it's well into rot at that point. Yeah,
and the good thing about it is that, kind of like with anything in life, if you take care of it and you do the proper maintenance, it's going to last a long time. Right?
Exactly.
Like there's a guy that had a Volvo, I think, that he did all the proper oil changes every time he was supposed to, and he's got like 2 million plus miles on it. You know, like, if you maintenance something the right way and take care of it, it's going to last a long time.
Exactly.
So with masonite, like you said, right, like taking care of it, putting the right primer on it, not primer, but, you know, painting it, making sure. But taking care of it. And the good thing is that stuff is kind of relatively inexpensive back in the day to put on a house. So if you do need to replace it, it's not a huge deal to do that, right?
No, it's not a huge deal. And I mean, the common fix that you'll see now is, you know, the same kind of press board, but it is concrete cement or concrete fiberboard. You'll find hardy plank, different things to replace that with. You don't have to be necessarily worried that I've got masonite on the side of my house. You just need to be aware of what the repercussions down the road are, or what this looks like for me to replace it. And most people are going to tell you hey, just replace a little bit at a time. What I tell you is, vinyl's going to be the cheapest and easiest option for you to put up there. You know, a $50,000 replacement might actually be $12,000 if you do it vinyl and you don't piece it together. So sometimes just having that education and being aware of, you know, your property as you should be, will save you a lot of headache in the long run.
The funny part about that, specifically with masonite, like you were saying, though, is that if the way we explain it to buyers too is important. Because if we terrify a buyer, right, they'll never buy a house with masonite. But, you know, I tell buyers all the time, I've got masonite in my house. It's got the issues I've just told you about here and there. If you just take care of it, you know, just something to be on your radar in the future to budget for. If we love this house, if it's next to grandma and we're going to do whatever it takes to buy this house, that's something we just have to think about, right? Yeah. Just so we can move forward. Because at the end of the day, if we talk everyone out of houses the way, you know, to a perfect T, then no one will ever buy a house, because every house has issues, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is good. So we always try and like do positive sandwiches around it. Make sure that we are talking about the pros and cons of it, right? That's, at the end of the day, you're a conduit of information. Like you're just spitting out information right now, which is great. Yeah. So with moisture in the crawl space, what are some things? So crawl space, I mean, before I came to Dash, I mean, I'd look in them because I was genuinely curious how it looked down there. Right? What are some things that you do when you got a client, there's a crawl space? What is a crawl space? Difference between that and a slab? Like, can you share that info with us?
Yeah, I believe, like you mentioned, like most agents are kind of not going down into the crawl space.
It's dirty.
Right?
You know, spiders.
You wear your suit and then come out, you know, covered in cobwebs and stuff. But I do. I mean, I think that you do as well. But with that said, the foundation and that's where it starts. I mean, that's where you're going to start having issues. That's where you're going to start having things that show up. It's the foundation of your home. It's the same that you mentioned, the slab. Slab is just one piece of concrete that lays across the ground. You build the home on top of it. There's not a lot that can happen in between the house and that. But with a crawl space, you have, you know, sometimes a 6-inch space, sometimes 2 to 3 feet. sometimes 6 foot that you can walk through completely fine. But with that said, there's a lot of issues that come up in those where you can see it that if you didn't enter that crawl space in the first place, you're not going to know about it. Some things going outside of general knowledge of expertise, but like a helical pier.
Yeah.
Like something that supports the house completely, you know, holds up the girders, just make sure that, you know, nothing's sagging, anything like that. But we can go into the crawl space and sometimes see issues if you see a crack, especially like some stair stepping cracks down the side of the mortar or something like that. We know that there might be an issue with the helical pier, or if, you know, the piers are laying sideways, you know, there could be a structural issue, and it's just something important to tell the client. Same thing where you mentioned moisture, going in the crawl space, seeing hanging insulation. That tends to be a key to me, that we have higher, you know, moisture levels in that crawl space. And here's the reality, you know it just as well as I do. In North Carolina, we're, you know, almost 100% humidity, some days swimming through, trying to get anywhere. So that same thing is going to happen to your crawl space. It's going to raise there. And naturally in the area, we tend to see 36-50% humidity crawl spaces being normal. If it doesn't have a vapor barrier, if it doesn't have encapsulation, all that fun stuff that if you're not pulling that crawl space open and you're not peeking in there to see, you're not really doing a justice to your client by saying, hey, you know, I'm aware of these things, but you shouldn't be. Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, we're a due diligence state, right?
Yeah.
If we don't look in the crawl space and then our client puts an offer forward, you know, sometimes, you know, from 0.5% to 2.5% of the purchase price, if it's multiple offer situation, maybe even more due diligence, then boom, you know, my client's money is at stake, and I didn't even look in the crawl space for him or the attic or anything like that, right? So we do our clients a disservice if we don't do that. So it's okay to get cobwebs on your suit. It's okay. I had a client years ago that I was showing him a house and I was wearing a 3-piece, and I ducked down to get the crawl space. He grabbed me and said, "Do not go in there with that suit." And I was like, dude, this is more important for me to go in here than it is about me wiping my suit off when I get out, right?
Yeah,
so it's super important to show our clients we care about them, that when I show houses, I try and make sure, like, hey, client, your money is almost like it's mine. I'm going to do my best to make sure that if I was helping you buy this house or I was buying this house, I'd do the exact same thing for me, right? Exactly. I want to make sure that you're protected.
Yeah.
So
I kind of do that same thing. I mirror that anxiety. I'm on the emotional roller coaster with you. You know, just as well as I do. I'll call you and say, hey, you know, I have this situation going on. But I feel like when you start to get detached or say, hey, well, I'm not going to go in this crawl space because I don't want to mess up my suit. That's where you're not really justifying. I mean, you're not really being that justice advocate for your client of saying, hey, you know, I'm going to make sure I know everything about this property before you do want to move forward on it. Caveat emptor. I mean, that's what it brings back to. I think every buyer should know that this is a seller protected state. Yep. You know, buyer beware. Buyer beware that the property is as is at time of showing. Meaning what you see is what you get. Right. So if you have somebody that's just pulling you through and saying, hey, look at this beautiful ceiling, look at this beautiful carpet, whatever it may be, and then you're missing the stair step cracking, you know, in the living room, the, you know, door frame or whatever it is, and that same stair step cracking is showing upstairs, but you didn't mention it once. I just don't see how you're doing a justification.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's super important for our clients to know that about the house, because and we try and coach our agents to know a home like an inspector, right? Like, I'm not perfect. I'm going to miss things, but if I can point out the majority of stuff that's going to be on that inspection report when the time comes, they're going to be like, wow, I got a great agent that's really looking out for me, you know, for the biggest purchase of my life.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's super important to know a house like an inspector. So what are some other things that you've noticed? Because, I mean, I'll be honest, I've had clients that you've done co-agent showings for me before. Like, if I was out of town, you showed a house for me, or I got a signed call, gave them to you, and just, you know, you do a stellar job of showing a house and pointing things out and trying to show your value proposition, because these days agents, I mean, some people think that they don't need an agent to buy a house, which is, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, they probably could do stuff without us, but they might miss things. They might do things wrong. They might make a huge mistake and lose a ton of money. Maybe it's a good idea to have an agent, right? That knows what they're talking about and is in their corner fighting for them.
Yeah, and I'm a huge advocate for that as well. I'll tell anybody that, you know, says, hey, I don't feel like I need to use an agent. Well, perfect. You don't have to. Here's why you maybe should. Florida, New Jersey, some other state, absolutely don't use an agent. But because North Carolina is caveat emptor, because it's buyer beware, that's where you really need to start, listening to someone when they're telling you, when they're the expert. When you hire them to represent you, you really should be saying, hey, what am I getting myself into?
Exactly.
Because there's no way out of it. Due diligence in North Carolina is, is you put it on, and if we can't prove without a reasonable factor of the doubt that the seller told us something wrong, you're not getting it back.
Right.
And if you're not advocating for your client and telling that day one, and maybe scaring them just a little bit to the point to where we are looking at the houses and they say, hey, I'm okay with all this stuff, that's why I say we move forward. And that's why I tend to, phrase it like that, is I'm not willing to write you the offer until you tell me, hey, I'm absolutely in love with this house and I know everything that's going on with it.
Yeah, it's super important. Super important. I think one thing that we can help our clients to do before moving forward is being able to look at the house as much as we can. 5 things. What are the 5 big things? If you had to walk up to a house with a client that you would say, we need to make sure that we look at these 5 things in order to feel comfortable about moving forward. The 5 things are going to cost us the most money in the future if we need to address them.
Yeah. Downslope towards the house.
Okay, so like grading. Okay.
If you are on a negative incline, what does that look like in the crawl space? What kind of issues are you running into? Has it caused some foundational issues because you're just slowly being pulled down? I think grading is an important thing to look at. Siding. When you're approaching the house, just some of those things that I'm generally taking in. Siding. Crawl space, humidity, again, any of those issues that we see appear, leaning, any cracks, anything like that. And then roof, and when we're looking outside, sometimes you can see, hey, there's decking that is bent and it's causing the roof to bow or buckle or whatever it may be, or that ridge cap. Boy, that sure doesn't look right. Maybe I should get an expert out here to have it look at it for you. And then the 5th thing, probably any of the plumbing in the house. I mean, water's going to be your biggest issue. I think that's what you keep hearing as a repetitive thing in this is, moisture retention of any sort, humidity, masonite, any of that stuff is all moisture related. So looking at the pipes, just making sure, walking through, hey, is this polybutylene? Is this PVC? Is this cast iron and I still got 20 years out of it? Or is it cast iron and it's reaching the end of its life, 80 to 100 years? I mean, there's stuff that go along with that I think that would be very important for you to walk through and at least flush the toilets or turn on the shower.
Yeah, absolutely. So grading, siding, crawl space, moisture, water issues, and the roof are kind of like big 5 things. Yeah. I would add like your systems like HVAC, things like that, right? Because those could be your heat goes out, boom, now I got to pay for either $8,000 to $10,000 gas pack, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Those are definitely huge potential issues that might cost money in the future, right? So what do you have like a crazy story you want to share at all about maybe a client that maybe it's just something you ran into at a house that you guys went under contract, you pointed it out, and it just turned out to be a crazy thing?
Yeah. I think it was actually one of the shadowing experiences with Dash.
Okay.
And I came on thinking, that I already knew everything was well to go. But in reality, there was still quite a bit that I took on from some of these senior agents. And Jennifer, Bad Jen as we call her, I went on a shadowing with her for a showing, or actually it was the final walk. And this is why I'm always an advocate of we do the final walk the morning of the closing, not the night before, not the week before, the morning of. And if you're not available, I'll go out there and do it. Because we went out there and I heard like a rainforest behind the door. And I thought, surely this can't be, something that's going on with the house, that they've got to the point where they're getting ready to close. Badgen opened the door and there's just water coming down from the ceiling, coming out of the light fixtures, coming out of everywhere. I mean, it is so bad that when we talk about the slab, it is running out from the slab underneath the house outside to where you can see it coming out.
My goodness.
So, yeah, I think that was the biggest horror story shock that I've seen. And it didn't happen to me, but I know that the resolution was that, buyer essentially got DD back, chose to move forward with another property. That property was fixed by the seller, but I mean,
that's tough.
Yeah, it was and it's especially tough for the agent knowing that they've got to cross the finish line and then coming in the day of and then realizing, hey, we've got this huge issue. But to her defense, I mean, had she done that the night before, we would have never known.
Yeah, it's very true. I mean, you have to do a final walkthrough before you close on the house, and you got to do it before closing. Ideally, like you said, right before you go to closing. Closing at 10, we're doing the final walkthrough at 9.
Yep.
Even if we get to closing right at 10:03, because if we happen to find an issue that wasn't there before, the contract says that the house has to be in the same condition as it was when you went under contract. So we get there, test the AC, AC's broken, that's got to get fixed before we can close.
Absolutely.
Right? And so if the seller says no, then okay, well, we're going to have to back out and have to give us our due diligence back.
Bingo.
Granted, they don't necessarily have to give the due diligence back. That could get tied up in other issues, other court kind of things. But at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you're protecting your client, right? When we hire someone to work for us, we want to make sure we get the best of the best, right? And so when someone's going to buy a house that's going to be the biggest purchase of their life, you should have the right team in place, right? That can help you make sure I'm going to be looking out for you.
Yeah.
And I know you've used this example before. Maybe we've heard it as well through other folks at the firm. But, when we represent a client, we're putting on, I'm team Chuck Mike, right?
Yeah.
Or I'm in your corner. I'm like your boxing coach, Actually, you're my boxing coach. You're the CEO of your company, and I'm your real estate department. I'm going to go out there and fight for you in every way I can. Make sure that your asset is protected.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's very important to have an advocate. Again, in North Carolina, I can't speak for other states.
Yeah,
I mean, I can certainly see the appeal to not using the agent in any other state. But when you really are in a seller-protected state, having a buyer representative is super important because you're not going to know about a lot of these issues. And then, better yet, what are you going to do when they do come up? We have lists of vendors that we can use to call at any point in time to get another eye on it, or at least two, to try to find out, hey, is this even worth moving forward? Maybe our best case is to walk away from the due diligence.
Right.
But I just want to make sure that they are fully well aware of this before committing to anything.
Yeah. I mean,
it's what, $450,000 is about
a lot
your
of money.
Starter home and carrier right now.
Yeah, so it's a lot of money, and if we're going to give $4,000 in due diligence at 1% for that, or, if it's at $400,000, then that's a lot of money that you got to walk away from, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to walk away from $500, let alone $4,000. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so we got to be willing to be comfortable with that before we even put an offer in, right? Because if this house, something falls out, we've pointed out everything we possibly can, giving you the pros and cons of, everything that we've seen in the house, siding, crawl space, roof, all these different things. If we're comfortable moving forward, if God forbid we do have to back out, are you okay with walking away with that? Yeah. And not having that, So.
And then not thinking about it if the client says, hey, I do want to, speaking to the agents here, I think it's important to understand, once they say, hey, I'm comfortable walking away from this, don't let it eat you up anymore. Right. I mean, you've given them the advice, you've given them the information to do that. Just know that, sometimes that 1% to 2% is a lot different to us than it is to somebody else. And it's okay to walk away.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Chuck, Mike, I'm so glad that you came on the show with us today and talked about how we talk people out of houses. And if you want to work with Chuck Mike, reach out to him. He's got a bio on our website, and he's a great agent. He's actually on my team, and so I was so happy to interview him today. So, but we're thankful to have you guys watching us on the DASHcast podcast and YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, all those different places. Make sure you give us a like, comment, share, subscribe, all those fun things. And if you're on YouTube, I know specifically, hit that bell notification, because I don't know why, but YouTube really likes once you hit that bell notification to say, oh, I never want to see one of their videos again. You got to go on there and say, give me alerts for these. So make sure that you do that so that you don't miss a single episode from us. So this is the DASHcast Podcast. I'm Zach, your host, and this is Chuck Mike, and we're glad to have you.